Today's video is specifically about how to catch Maine lake trout. We're gonna go over where to find them, how to catch them, and what I personally use to jig for. So we're going to start off with talking about fishing locations. Now, a location when you're fishing for lake trout is probably one of the most important things that you can do. The lake is a big area, and for a fish, a lot of a lake or an ocean is more or less a desert. Going about finding a location, especially when you're looking at lake trout, is huge, and it is something that you should probably invest the most amount of your time into before you even go out. Right now, it's early winter, so lake trout have just finished spawning, and now they're kind of getting on that feedback. They need to start filling up, building up that fat, and then later in winter the bite's gonna taper off.
Ah, jeez. All right, well, I've had better releases.
So this is a great location because we have a couple different inlets. We have an inlet coming from behind us here, and there is also another one over here. So the one great thing about this area is lake trout are coming to this area to feed. It's one thing to go out into an area where lake trout live, and you might see a couple, but you know, they might be lazy. They might just be cruising around. They're not necessarily feeding in that location. So we have a higher probability of catching a lake trout that we see. Now let's talk about how to find spots. So the first thing we can do is go into IF&W's website and check out the survey maps. And in here we can click on any county within Maine. For example, let's click on Somerset. And within this county, we have a list of every pond and lake listed. So if there's one that you're specifically interested in, for example, unnamed pond, let's say, it's gonna give you a little more information about it. We have the name of the pond. It's gonna tell us whether or not there's fish here. And in this case, there's none. That might be good to know if you're thinking about fishing it. But anyway, we also get a description of what's going on in that pond at the time. And most importantly, it's going to show us some depth maps. Next up, I'm going to show you a far superior method that's going to give us way more detail so we can pick the very best spots to target these lake trout. So for this, I'm going to jump on my phone. I have this app called Navionics. If we click on this app, not only we do have satellite imagery, but it also has the depths of all the different lakes and ponds in Maine. Let's use Rangeley Lake as an example. So the first thing I really think about when I'm checking out a new lake is what type of bait fish is available for these lake trout to eat. For that, we can go over to the main website there and check out all the different bait fish that are in this lake. In this case, we have things like lake chub, golden shiners, common shiners, black nose shiners, red belly dace. You know, these are all going to be species that you're going to find in more shallow waters. But something else to note is we also have rainbow smelt in here, a huge forage for lake trout. And these bait fish are going to be found in a very different location than some of these other minnows. So that's something you're going to have to think about. I'm going to look around Rangeley and see what really pops out for me. Just to list 4 features that I look for hills, drop-offs, corridors, and horseshoes. I'll give you an example of each of them. First off, we have this corridor. There's a little valley that goes up into the shallows from the deeper water. That's usually what I call a corridor, but a lot of times lake trout will use these to travel up into these shallow waters. Within this corridor, we can see this horseshoe, and so a spot where the lake trout are able to push bait fish into it. And when the bait fish hit that back wall, they scatter and become disoriented. So horseshoes are a big one for me. I really like to fish those. The next one is actually right across from it. So by this horseshoe, we have what I'd call a hill. And these hills are the same concept. The lake trout will swim up it. If there's bait fish there, it's gonna scatter them, and it presents the opportunity for them to be able to catch these bait fish. So the last thing I'm gonna mention is a drop off. So this is actually a really cool example of one. We have almost an island that leads to a steep drop off, so there's really no features around it, and that's great because this drop off is going to be the most interesting feature to those fish. So they might be cruising the very edge of this basin and the end of this drop off. This would be a really great spot to target them. They can use the drop off to push bait fish up. It's also just a natural barrier that they're going to start cruising, especially if they run into it across this basin. So that was just a quick overview of how I find spots. If you guys want an in-depth video, make sure you go down below and let me know in the comments. talk to you guys about the gear that I use a little bit. I get a lot of questions about that. I like to keep my setup pretty simple, so I'll go over the things that I bring. There's just a couple things that you really need. One of those is gonna be a rod. And for our rods, in Maine waters, you don't need to go too extreme. A medium heavy is gonna be great, even though, you know, today, and then honestly, a lot of the days, we catch smaller fish. Oh my goodness. Biggest one of the day. Oh, for sure. Get a load of that. That is a stud. Yeah, you sure? You want to get the tape measure on that? With lake trout, there may be a lot of small ones, but we do have that opportunity to catch a big fish. And when you do hook onto one, you don't want to be using a light rod. And on that, you're gonna wanna reel with a little bit more drag. Those larger fish, as soon as they see the surface, they're gonna dig and go back down to the bottom. So we want something that can help slow them down. I use a Wicked 13 ice reel. I'm not too particular with brand, you just need something that works with decent drag. Now on that reel, I run 10-pound braid. So off of my braid, I run a swivel, and then I tip that with anywhere from 6-pound all the way up to 10-pound fluorocarbon. Lastly, and most important, guys, a flasher is key. If you're gonna be jigging up lake trout, you absolutely should have a flasher. I use a Helix 5 and I love it. It's at a good price point, and all this stuff is going to be linked down below, so if you want to check it out for yourself, that's going to be down there for you to look at. Now this flasher does a lot of things for me, and the biggest one is that I can see a fish coming in, so I'm not blindly jigging. You can look at it far more objectively. When I'm sitting in a spot and I haven't seen one for 30 minutes, I move spots. But as long as you're seeing fish pass, you know, every 20 to 30 minutes, you're in a decent area, and when that bite window turns on, you're going to catch fish. I can't imagine fishing for lake trout without this, and this is the biggest recommended item that I always suggest to everyone. It'll change your perspective on jigging if you've never used one before.
No, it'll... Well,
you always have the cleanest releases. Now, I only fish one style of jigs for my lake trout, and they have caught every single fish I have for the last 5 or so years now. And that is this Marabou Jig. It is impressive how well these do. The Marabou in these jigs provides such a great action that is impossible to replicate with a lot of other plastics that you see people use. It has such a fine movement to it, and that really helps entice these lake trout. My favorite colors are chartreuse and white. Those probably catch 90% of the lake trout that I've caught over the last 5 years. I do use some other colors like pinks. Blacks can work well if you're fishing deep. I usually switch to those when the bite is just a bit slow and maybe you need something different. I'm gonna put a link down in the description. You can find out a little more information about how these jigs are tied up, and if you want to help support the channel, I'd be happy to tie a few up and send them your way. Let's put these jigs to use, see if we can't pull out a bigger lake trout today. Been trying to change over chartreuse, and there's been one on bottom this whole time. It's driving me nuts. Oh geez, he's coming way up. Nope, it was definitely the colors. Wow, same size. Little cookie cutter laker. There's actually another on bottom, so let's see if I can get that one. I can't believe that. Switch from pink to chartreuse, just like that. Come on. Oh, really? You're both gonna be like that? Oh.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
This one feels a little bigger, but yeah, it's not that big. It's okay.
A little bit bigger.
Not really. Boy, that chartreuse they like though. Another little laker on that chartreuse jig. Hard to go wrong with that. Pink works sometimes, but I find I always have good luck with this one and switching to it. Got 2 right off the bat. They are turning on right now. What are the chances? You think we can get 3? I believe 2. That's the trick, you just need to believe. I know for a fact there's one more, because I saw 3. Oh, look at that, look at him. Already coming up, I'm not even 15 down. Oh. Oh, this one feels better. Oh yeah, yep.
Oh yeah,
oh.
That's the, whoa.
Oh,
That's
hey, that's better. Look at that. Boy, just that one switch made all the difference.
Who says color doesn't matter?
Color seems to matter. There we go, guys. That is a better Laker for the day. I was using the pink jig and got a couple interested on it, but nothing was taken. Switch over to chartreuse, and we've got 3 right in a row, and there's actually more down there. So we're gonna go ahead and let this guy go and probably get another fish. Goodbye. Well, so far we've been having a pretty good day. It seems like every hour or so we get a series of bites, like that last one. I think we got 3, and then Zach's got 3 or 4. Anyway, we're kind of just standing around eating chips.
All dressed.
All dressed. Yeah, the thing with lake trout is the bite kind of goes up and down. They'll bite for a while and then they stop. And if you guys run into that, just stick it out. That's about all you can do. Wait a little bit. Eating some all dressed potato chips. Those are my favorite. I'm surprised that you like those. So Zach, I guess I didn't introduce you. I mean, I assume most people know you. This is Zach.
Yeah, how's it going?
Zach's from Massachusetts. But this right here.
We don't have those in Massachusetts.
No, this is a Maine special, Maine and Canada. So I'm surprised that you're into these.
Oh yeah. When I first moved up here, bought a bag of these. Life changer.
Yes, agreed.
So good.
So Zach's adapting to the Maine lifestyle pretty well, I'd say.
Have a Maine license plate now.
Oh yeah, and he's working on his Maine guide license. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, we're just killing time here, and should get on some more fish pretty soon. Oh, geez.
Got one.
That was an awesome day of fishing for some Maine lake trout. We didn't get that many with size, but we got plenty of numbers. And so remember, guys, if you want to help support my channel, you can go down below, go into the description and click on that website. And you can check out some of the jigs that we used in this video there. I will catch you in the next adventure. So have a good night.